You're not giving me easy questions, man. I thought we are going to start with some casual conversations about, marketing, what B2B SaaS companies typically need,
Nope, I'm jumping in. We're going for it.
You're going for it.
All right, welcome to episode 10 of B2B SaaS Marketing Snacks. In this episode, I asked Stein about brand and the role that it should play in early stage B2B SaaS companies. Here it is. Okay, Stein, here's another question for you. And this one came up pretty recently in a conversation I was having with somebody, so it's timely. So I think a lot of people see brand as a non-direct contributor to the bottom line, and maybe there's some misconceptions out there around what brand really means, more than just the colors that you use on your website and your typography and your iconography. So I'm curious to hear how you think about brand and its role in the marketing mix and the role that it should play in the marketing mix and your priorities in the early days when you're building a company, specifically a B2B SaaS company. Is it important? Should it be a serious consideration, investment early on? And what kind of, what's the role that it should play? And how else does it manifest outside of just being the pretty face for your company?
Yeah, brand is such an interesting topic, Mike. It means so many different things for different people. One thing that's always challenging is that many business owners, leaders, founders, they think of brand awareness as the most, the low-hanging fruit, right? They feel that they've created something very special and everybody can probably benefit from it. And if only everybody knew, then, the product or the service would sell so easily and growth would be a piece of cake, right? That's sometimes when you come in as a marketer, that's the question, right? Hey, you should just drive brand awareness. If people know about us, everything else will go almost automatically. It's not build it and they will come. It's like tell everybody about it and then they will like it. I don't know. It's not necessarily the way I think about brand. I feel brand is, of course, a complex topic, so let's dissect it a little bit. There's brand trust, right? Does your brand make people feel comfortable? Does it allow them to make decisions quickly? Then there is, and to trust you. Then there's brand awareness, as we just talked about, right? How many people actually know about you, and that then allows you to drive business from that brand awareness equity in the market. And then there's some subtopics on that. Let's call it brand recall and brand recognition that are a little different from brand awareness. So let's talk about these four and why you should care and how much you should care and maybe in what order. The first one, brand trust, I think is the most important for a small technology company, a B2B SaaS company that's growing fast. Because what you need to do, you need to allow people to basically give you their money to buy your product, your service, with as little friction as possible. And whether they trust your brand is going to be a big part of that, right? How do you make people feel very comfortable that when they sign up with you, and the SaaS service often is a long-term commitment, that you will be there still, not only tomorrow, but a couple of years from now, and that you will be trustworthy with their data, right? When you're a SaaS company, you're going to store information on their behalf. And that confidence is really critical. So when you think of your branding, and especially things like visual brand and your brand voice, the way you express yourself, the way you show up, what your website looks like, driving things like consistency, consistent brand application, clean branding that is sort of trustworthy because it breeds sort of solid execution, attention to detail, things like that. That will absolutely instill that confidence with your potential customers to just sign up quicker, to make it more make it comfortable for them to trust you with their needs. So consistency, that can drive recognition, of course, brand recognition as well, but it's mostly going to lead to trust. So what you can do there is have a strong brand style guide, strong standards, a brand voice, drive consistency, and it all will basically help you look bigger than you actually are, right? Which is really helpful when you're still scaling up, you're still a smaller company. So looking bigger than you are by having phenomenal brand sort of execution, visual and voice. So that's the first part. And then the second is, I think, brand awareness. So doing some form of letting people know about what you have to offer is important, especially when you are, and that's often the case with the companies that we work with, when you're trying to make a market, when you're maybe helping create a product category, a new solution category that may be not as well understood by the market, right? And if you think of inbound and outbound marketing, it often means you need to do some outbound marketing. Pure inbound marketing almost assumes that your audience is doing a lot of the work, right? That they are not only acknowledging and finding out that they have a need, they are able to articulate that need. They then also do the work of sort of starting to search for solutions. They type in a query in a Google search box, for example, and that leads them to either find you organically or see your ad. So that is sort of the inbound journey that is often prioritized, which I think is the right thing to do. I think that's the most healthy form of marketing, building a great inbound presence with good content that's relevant, etc. But if you're creating a new category, if you're solving a problem that people have not even given a name to, or they have no idea of what type of solutions are out there, then doing some form of outbound, we'd like to call that account-based marketing, to make it clear that it has to be extremely focused, right, on people who actually have the challenge that you're solving. Super relevant content, not just making noise. But if you can find that captive audience, then doing some kind of account-based marketing is a great way to drive brand awareness. Don't sort of try to just make noise broadly, but to drive brand awareness with that specific audience that is, ripe for the plucking if they only actually knew about your solution, right, to the point that I started with. Then brand dominance is of course part of brand awareness. When you're in a very small category, if you make the market, the viable market that you're willing to win, that you're trying to win, if you make it small enough, you can absolutely try to dominate that market, right? And then brand awareness becomes brand dominance. And that is not easy, of course, for large categories. But if you think of your market and you make it small enough, you basically talk about a solution that you have for a certain problem in a certain industry, in a certain country, for a certain type of business, then you can maybe become the dominant player in that specific niche that you carve out. So that's brand awareness. Then two other sort of sometimes mentioned separately, but they're related to brand awareness aspects of brand. Brand recall, sort of how do people remember you, recall. So maybe they don't have a challenge today when you're marketing to them and you try to get top of mind. But if they run in 3 months later or a year later into a challenge that you can solve for them, if they can recall your name and what you were trying to offer them, I think that is extremely powerful. So, and that's where things like your name, your company name, and how easy it is to remember that, and how easy it is to sort of maybe describe what you do is very powerful for brand recall benefits. Here it's interesting that sometimes simple branding, simple names, for example, don't necessarily help you as much as something that's very vivid and easier to remember because it stands out, right? A name can be, for example, sometimes it's good that the name is not easy to pronounce, for example, because it might make it more memorable. I'm not advocating here for difficult company names or product names, but it is interesting when you think of brand recall that other aspects of your branding become important that maybe were not as important when you thought just about brand trust and brand confidence. And then the last one, again related, brand recognition, right? How do you make sure that when people see your brand, they can they easily map it to what you do, and they understand what you stand for, what product category you belong to, and whether it's the slogans that you use, your packaging, your logos, these jingles maybe in a podcast, all those things sort of that also will help with brand recall, also of course help with brand recognition. And they make it easier for people to not only recognize what you do, but then drive confidence through that as well, because they understand it. It's more common for this, of course, to happen when your market is a little more mature and when you are actually effectively reaching your target market and people start to sort of tell others about you. So yeah, Mike, those are sort of 4 ways to think about branding. How do you instill brand trust? How do you drive brand awareness? How do you facilitate brand recall? And of course, all of this supported by good brand recognition so that people actually understand what you do.